It's time to get your news on. We are VK1WIA.
And most definitely it is. It's the WIA National News for week commencing June 30, 2024. And this week, WIA Editor-in-Chief of AR Magazine, Roger, VK2ZRH, and that bittersweet outcome of the Victorian Supreme Court trial of the deaths of two campers, one of whom was VK3VZP. WIA Technical Advisory Committee Chairman Grant, VK5GR, and changes to the beacon and repeater frequency selection process. And WIA Director Chris, VK3FY, speaks with Al, W6MOS, at the 2024 Lions International Convention held in Melbourne. But wait, there is much, much more in this edition of news from your Wireless Institute of Australia. I'm Editor Graham, VK4BB.
Who listens to radio?
This is Ron, VK3AFW.
This is Graham, VK4CEG, from the Brisbane Amateur Radio Club.
This is Nathan, VK5DAD. Hi all.
Hello everyone, this is Maria, VK5MAZ.
This is Krista Matrievich, VK3FY, on behalf of the Board of the Wireless Institute for VK1WIA News. This week's topic will be about visiting amateurs to the Lions Convention here in Melbourne. I have with me Al, W6MOS, who will be giving us a little bit of a briefing on the convention. Al, what has brought you to Melbourne?
Well, my wife is outgoing district governor for a part of California. She is a K6XTY, and we were here on their international convention supporting over 210 different countries around the world.
How did you both get involved in amateur radio?
Well, for myself in that, it started all the way back with my dad. He was a ham radio operator, and so was my mom. On Christy's side, my wife's side, her dad and family are also amateur radio operators. So when I was growing up, it was kind of almost mandatory that we got into ham radios, and we've been picking it up and enjoying it ever since.
What is roughly the number of amateur radio operators attending this Lions Convention in Melbourne?
We're figuring out right now there's about 10% from the state of California that are ham radio operators, and of course globally in that we figure maybe about 1%.
How many attendees all up was at the Lions Convention?
It was quite big. It was about 23,000 people.
Okay. Have you brought any amateur radio gear along with you?
I did. I got my handheld. It was the Yaesu FT3D.
Okay. Have you managed to get on air?
I did. Yeah, it was kind of fun and that to be over here and in Australia, being able to go ahead and get on air and talk to some of the local hams.
That's great. Thank you, Al, and I hope you enjoy your stay here in Australia, and we look forward to working you on the air.
Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you. This is Krista Matrievich, VK3FY, on behalf of the VK1WIA Weekly News with Al, W6MOS, and Christy, K6XTY. Thank you for this week. 73s.
Hello, everyone. This is Grant, VK5GR, the WIA Technical Advisory Committee Chairman, with some news about a new public consultation that has opened looking at changes to the way repeater and beacon frequencies are selected and licensed in Australia. The WIA was first approached by the ACMA in 2022 to consider how improved transparency could be brought to amateur repeater and beacon frequency selection processes. In addition, the ACMA wished to enable a pathway for obtaining an amateur repeater and beacon frequency assignment that did not require applicants to engage directly with the WIA. The WIA was supportive of the ACMA's objectives and has since been working with them to produce a new draft technical standard that sets forth the methods for selecting frequencies for amateur repeaters and beacons. All of this work has now reached a point where it can be released for consultation with the wider amateur radio community. And the consultation takes place in two parts. Firstly, to enable the new frequency assignment pathway, the ACMA has released a consultation for a new proposed frequency assignment process designated FAP number 10. If you'd like to understand more about the process changes proposed by ACMA, please start with their consultation and provide your feedback on those process aspects to the ACMA. Secondly, to support the ACMA's objective, the WIA has drafted 4 new radio communications licensing instructions, or RALIs as they're known in the industry, that describe the rules for how frequency selection should be undertaken for amateur frequency assigned repeater and beacon stations. This parallel WIA consultation paper describes the technical rules and standards that have been developed to support the ACMA's objective of having APs, or accredited persons, be able to directly select amateur repeater and beacon frequencies that fit the operational nature of these amateur stations within the amateur radio band plans. If you have any feedback on the Rally Standards document specifically, please reply to the WIA consultation, as we are retaining responsibility for the Rally documents. With such a major policy change, it's important for us to gather views from affected operators. In particular, we would like to hear feedback from those who construct and operate repeater and beacon stations as to your opinions and thoughts on these draft standards and process changes. We encourage those operators to please take some time to read both the ACMA process consultation and the WIA Rally document consultation. And then if you have any feedback, please write to either the ACMA on the processes or the WIA on the rallies. Both consultations are open until Friday the 2nd of August 2024. We would really look forward to hearing from you. Finally, it is hoped to run an interactive discussion session on this topic sometime in mid-July, and we will release some details soon about how you'll be able to participate. That should you be interested. Thanks for listening. Until next time, this has been Grant, VK5GR, for the WIA Technical Advisory Committee.
This news originates from the Wireless Institute of Australia. Dreaming, believing, achieving.
This is Editor-in-Chief of Amateur Radio Magazine, Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH. Many of you could not have failed to hear and read the plethora of news reports across the media this past week about the Victorian Supreme Court trial concerning two campers named Carol Clay and Russell Hill, who lost their lives back in March 2020 while on a weekend away in the remote Wonnangata Valley in Victoria's high country. What sparked the media uproar last week was the sensational split verdict delivered by the jury in what was a long-followed trial of one-time Jetstar pilot Greg Lynn, whom the jury found guilty of murdering Mrs. Clay, but found him not guilty of murdering Russell Hill. Why would we be interested? Russell Hill was a radio amateur, call sign VK3VZP. He was active on the HF bands, particularly on 40 metres, and was known as a member of a number of on-air nets, checking in on regular occasions. Indeed, the fact that he failed to make a sked and was not heard on air following the March weekend was part of what occasioned his family to make a missing persons police report in March 2020. The police case about the trial was reported in Amateur Radio Magazine last year, in issue 4 on page 7, and in issue 3 this year, again on page 7. To follow the admittedly disturbing details in the media, I recommend you look on the ABC's news web pages. The commercial news websites have also covered the story in detail. I'm Roger Harrison, VK2ZRH, for VK1WIA News.
From here, there and everywhere, you've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's national news service. We are VK1WIA. Now with international news, Jason, VK2LAW.
Hello. To London recently was the 1940s weekend at the Bletchley Park Museum. The RSGB National Radio Centre, or NRC, supported the event by hosting the World War II Special Operations Executive radio station Golf Bravo 1 Sierra Oscar Echo. The station, operating in the 40-metre band, attracted lots of visitor attention, as did Golf Bravo 3 Romeo Sierra, which was busy on the air as part of the Museums on the Air weekend. NRC volunteers made QSOs and invited visitors to pass greetings messages. If appropriate, the volunteers used the new UK licence conditions to allow visitors to run QSOs themselves under supervision. The weekend was a huge success, and over 1,200 people visited the RSGB National Radio Centre. To news from Russia. Congratulations, racer Skrinikova, Romeo 1 Bravo India Golf, who's being honoured by Yasmi for her YouTube channel called YL Racer, which educates and entertains its more than 15,000 subscribers and spreads goodwill by welcoming newcomers to amateur radio. I'm Russian, but I was born in Uzbekistan. Then in 2004, I decided to move to Russia, says Racer. Her choice, St. Petersburg. In St. Petersburg, she studied additional education at the Russian Herzen University and worked at school. In recent years, one of R1BIG's important areas of regular activity has been the ham radio promotion, and only last year was a recipient of the International Newsmaker of the Year award from Newsline. To the United States, in Washington, the U.S. Federal Communications Commission has proposed a fine of more than $367,000 against a major electronics manufacturer for selling Wi-Fi adapters and routers that the Commission believes were modified to exceed legal power limits. The report of the action against Asus Tech Computer Inc. was posted on the FCC website. The equipment marketing violation charge includes sanctions against Asus Tech Computers, which are based in Taiwan, and Asus Computer, the wholly owned affiliate that markets the routers in the US. The Bureau's posting said it had a complaint from a purchaser of 3 Model GT AXE routers, and when they were tested by a certified laboratory, the authorised power exceeded legal limits by some 4 to 9 dB, or nearly 8 times the legal power level on some frequencies. If US Congress requires AM radio in new cars, vehicle manufacturers might have to drop safety features instead. That's the message from opponents of the proposed law in Congress. A guest commentary published by Automotive News restates the key points that opponents have been making since the legislation was introduced, but their blunt emphasis on a possible trade-off with important safety features seems notable. To accommodate analogy AM radio as a primary design requirement, certain car makers may need to scrap advanced safety features, with engineers having to prioritise outdated technology over current or future safety innovations, they wrote. If the goal is to save American lives, Congress should encourage automakers to focus on innovative technologies like advanced driver assistance systems, autonomous vehicles and collision avoidance systems that actually reduce car accidents and fatalities, they wrote. They did not provide specifics on how much AM would cost to keep in comparison to such features. For VK1 WIA National News, in Sydney, I'm Jason, VK2LAW.
We are VK1 WIA. Now, operational news with VK4 FUQ. Felix.
Hello there. Now Contest-wise 2024. IAA HF World Championship July 13-14. Start 0 hours UTC Saturday and 23:59 hours UTC Sunday. There is no operating time restriction for stations in any category. The aim of the contest is to support amateur self-training in radio communications, including improving amateur operating skills, conducting technical investigations, and intercommunicating with other amateurs around the world, especially IAA member society headquarter stations, including our own VK3 WIA. ZL Autumn and Winter Sprints. Start marking those calendars as the greatest ZL Sprint Series, held at 0800 hours Zulu on a Tuesday night, is back for the month of July. As before, this contest from New Zealand starts with 30 minutes of CW, followed by 30 minutes of SSB, and then 30 minutes of FT4, all on 80 metres. The CW SSB exchange is RST and your outside temperature. The FT4 exchange is your 4-digit Maidenhead grid locator. Trans-Tasman Low Band Contest, July 21st. The Trans-Tasman Contest, always held on the third weekend in July, aims to encourage low band activity between VK and ZL. Only contest bands 160, 80 and 40 metres are allowed with SSB, CW and digital, that is RIDI or PSK. This contest is not an official WIA contest that will count towards the Peter Brown Contest Champion Awards. Yoda Contest 2024. The next session of this year's Yoda Contest will be from 10 hours to 21:59 hours UTC 21 July on the 5 classic bands using CW and SSB. Everyone can work everyone. RSGB IOTA Contest July 27. August 17-18 Remembrance Day Contest. Amateurs will endeavour to contact amateurs in VK call areas ZL and PT9 on all bands except WARC bands. Modes allowed are phone, CW and RITI as per the era remembered. 44th Alara Contest, and this Alara Contest is always held on the last full weekend of August. Wilds work everyone. OMs work wilds only. Suggested frequencies. All HF bands except 160 metres and WARC bands. Contacts made on Echolink will also be accepted. Dex window to the world. Logbook of the world, LOTW. If you are seeking logbook support, please note as per previous post by the ARRL and announcements in your WIA National News Service, ARRL is experiencing a cyber disruption to their computer networks but all logbook and DXCC awards data is secure, safe. I'll continue, where applicable, to give LOTW details if they pertain to QSL info. You may just have to hang fire a while till you can put that contact in. When systems are back in service, an email blast to logbook of the world users will be made. War on Townsville. In the early morning hours of the 29th of July 1942, a Japanese aircraft dropped 8 250-pound bombs. One local, Ray VK4OIL, is making sure we never forget.
Since that time, the Anumba bomb site was granted a heritage listing of the historical WW2 bombing of Townsville. My inquiring mind led me to investigate just what was the future of our World War II heritage listed site. Investigation into the three levels of government regarding the future and site of it clearly proved that our heritage listed site was about to be built over and lost forever. Well, not on my watch. A lot of work has gone into dealing with the three levels of government. Television and other media interviews with our local opposition member have all helped with the securing written documentation of future support to preserve the site in some form of construction. Our transmission on the anniversary date of the bombing, which will be the 29th, Monday it is, 29th of July 2024, from the site will be transmission start approximately 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll finish transmission around about 4 p.m. that afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. Our frequency hopefully will be 7.100 plus or minus lower sideband. Net control will be governed VK4 Zulu Zulu from the TARC headquarters. Any helpers or visitors, all welcome to attend. I also ask that we be inundated with DX stations from all over our great country to call in to the net and give us moral support, lest we forget.
Following on from his Lord Howe Island expedition, VK9LA, Eurus, YL2GM is QRV from American Samoa, again with a great call sign, K8K, and is on until July 9 on 160 to 10 metres using CW, SSB and FT8. QSL via YL2GN, LO2W, Club Logo QRS. Federal Republic of Germany. Special event stations DL2024E, DL2024U, DL2024R, and DL2024O are QRV until July 14 during the Euro 2024, the 17th edition of the UEFA European Football Championship, QSL via the Bureau. Listen throughout the year for special event call sign 9A100RKZ, marking the 100th anniversary of the Radio Club Zagreb in Croatia, QSL via 9A1ADE. For VK1WIA National News, I'm Felix VK4FUQ Inningham.
From here, there and everywhere, you tune to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now, special interest group news with Bruce, VK3FFF.
And a very good day to you. Worldwide Special Interest Group News. Summits on the Air, Worldwide Flora, Fauna Program, Parks on the Air, and other adventure groups. Special call sign OE20 SOTA is active until the 31st of October to mark the 20th anniversary of Austria joining the Summits on the Air program. In many parts of the world, amateur radio is moving in sync with Mother Nature, finding its way increasingly outdoors. The first weekend in June seemed to be a worldwide celebration of operating from mountains and other summits. And in the US, says Newsline, an organised group of YLs established a new tradition, Queens of the Mountains. Never mind playing King of the Hill, Paula K9IR, Amy AG7GP, and a few dozen YLs around the US, if not the world, were Queens of the Mountains. It happened when it seemed that many more of the adventurous ham radio operators were heading to the summits. The pair were kicking off an inaugural YL SOTA event to encourage women to try activating for Summits on the Air and to support one another in making summit-to-summit QSOs. Amy told Newsline she and Paula were inspired to try out this event after a group of 8YLs activated a summit during the Pacific Northwest W70 SOTA campout. Amy said many of the activators braved heavy rain, mud, poison ivy and vehicle breakdowns. She said, doing summits on the air, you learn to be prepared for the extra environmental challenges. Despite these challenges, or perhaps because of them, expect the Queens of the Mountains to be back on top next year. Worldwide special interest groups, balloons. NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, has been making a concentrated effort to track and identify objects that might be high-altitude weather, research or hobbyist radio balloons, such as ones launched by amateur radio clubs and school groups. NORAD is now studying numerous websites to determine as best as it can what balloons are flying over North America at any given time. US fighter jets shot down 3 hobbyists' balloons in 2023 after detecting and shooting down another high-altitude balloon, which the government department identified as a spy balloon from China. Stephen Armstrong, NORAD's Chief of Strategic Engagement, told the military website Task and Purpose that NORAD is now taking a closer look at raw radar returns to ensure more hobbyists' balloons don't meet the same fate. Worldwide special interest groups, digital. Gaming the amateur radio digital modes. Ever played poker over FT8? YouTuber Steve McGrain, KM9G, and his friends at the YouTube channel Coffee and Ham Radios do. They even live stream it monthly on the channel Frequency Frenzy. They've devised a system of automatically assigning values to QSO data from amateur radio digital mode contacts that correspond with playing cards. The www.frequencyfrenzy.live website uses the contest rules to display each participant's poker hand. They run the events as sprint contests. McGrain presented his experiences in the forum Gaming the Amateur Radio Digital Modes at the 2024 ARRL National Convention, hosted by Dayton Hamvention. A video of the presentation is available on the @ARRL HQ YouTube channel as a part of the 2024 National Convention playlist.
32 Hotel Bravo X-Ray Moscow. London calling Moscow. Come in Moscow.
This is Moscow. Boris Ilyich speaking. Hello there. How are you? It's a great pleasure to be speaking with you again.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
All right. King's pawn to Queen Bishop 3. Check.
Oh, yes, good move, Tovarich. This needs thinking about.
All right, give us a call next week then.
Worldwide special interest groups, IOTA. RSGB IOTA contest is July 27th. Listen for VK2 W7BRS from Lord Howe Island, IOTA number OC004, from the 20th of July to the 1st of August. CW, SSB and FT8 in Fox and Hound mode on 40 to 10 metres. QSL via M0URX's OQRS. Domenico, IK1MNF, is active as IK1MNF IA5 from Isola d'Elba, EU028, until the end of September. He is operating using SSB on the 20 to 6 metre bands. QSOs will be uploaded to Clublog. QSL IK1MNF IA5 via Domenico's home caller, which is IK1MNF. Indonesia. Listen and work 30 YB9 MKFP, Harry YC9 MFD-P, and Nando YD9 LAU-P. The 3 are active from Samoa Island OC241 during July the 4th to 7th. QRV on HF bands, QSL via YB9BU. Worldwide special interest groups, radio amateur old-timers. over to Clive, our man in the West.
Hello everyone, this is Clive, VK6CSW, reminding you that tomorrow is the first Monday of the month, time for the Radio Amateurs Old Timers Club of Australia's July Bulletin to go to air. This month, instead of the usual broadcast, we offer another historical broadcast from years past by Alan Doble, VK3AMD, this time from June 2002. The usual latest news and information will be broadcast next month. Everyone, RAOTC members and non-members alike, is most welcome to listen to the programme and to join in the callbacks afterwards. Full details of all transmissions, times, modes and frequencies can be found on the RAOTC website at www.raotc.org.au or just Google RAOTC broadcasts. If none of the transmission times suit you, you can download the audio file at any time from today from the club website. Members and friends of the RAOTC in Perth are reminded that the next lunchtime meeting at the Woodbridge Hotel, East Guildford, is on Tuesday, July the 9th. All are welcome, and further details are published on the club website. Once again, tune in tomorrow for the July RAOTC Bulletin. Enjoy the programme and please join in the callbacks afterwards. 7-3 from Clive, VK6CSW.
And from old-timers to young-timers and then the out-of-timers, worldwide special interest groups, Radio Amateur Young-Timers, YOTA, Alec, VK2MV.
Young radio operators take up the challenge for Turkey Air's POTA. The Parks on the Air program is still very young in Turkey Air, and now so are some of its biggest fans, just like a lot of we young uns here in VK. Just 2 years after Furkan, TA7H put his home country of Turkey Air on the POTA map, the Parks on the Air program in Turkey Air has been growing bigger and younger every day. In a country where only 67 of the 322 listed parks have been activated so far, younger amateurs have begun taking up the challenge this year. Now, about half of Turkey's POTA activators are young amateurs, according to Ersan TA1EYE. He said 4 young radio operators in search of outdoor activities away from the RFI of the city are now leading the way. TA3TGC, TA3LCK, TB3BDV and 4K6IJ have operated in the parks around Bursa City using their club call sign YM3KB, then moved on with their radios into parks near other cities. Meanwhile, other young POTA enthusiasts have been calling CQ POTA in the Black Sea region. This year, to further nurture POTA in Turkey, the website tadx.org was launched to show the parks listed in Turkey and the team's park-related activities. It could only get busier. For VK1WIA National News, I'm Alec, VK2MV in Sydney. Now back to you, Bruce.
Thanks to young-timer Alec. Now this is Bruce, VK3FFF, the old-timer and the out-of-timer. Time's up, so time for me to go QRT from sunny Bendigo.
This is VK1WIA. All points of contacts from today's news stories are to be found in print when you read the web editions, www.wia.org.au.
2024, it's a date, and clubs are welcome to email text with audio for this section. Details of all WIA affiliated clubs and societies can be found on the WIA website. That website, wia.org.au. VK4, Caboolture Radio Club's Hamfest, Saturday the 13th of July. In VK3, the Bendigo Amateur Radio and Electronics Club Radio Fest, August 18. VK6, Perth Tech 2024, September 21 at Gidgegannup. VK4, Gold Coast Hamfest, October 13, Nerang Country Paradise Parklands. VK5, the Amateur Radio Experiments Group Radio and Electronics Sale, Saturday, October 26, 10 a.m, David Roche Park, Kilbourne. In VK7, the big one, the Tasmanian Ham Conference, November 2 and 3 in Hobart, being held at Sandy Bay campus of UTAS. And finally for the year, Spark Rosebud Radio Fest. This, of course, is VK3. It happens November 17, Eastbourne Primary School, Allambie Avenue, Rosebud. Now till next we meet, I'm Editor Graham, VK4 Baker. Walk softly.
From Australia, This has been the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
Courtesy of Bevan, VK5 BD's ATV and YouTube channel, this has been WIA National News. We're back now, live and local, and your voice, your callbacks. And don't forget, tick like.
Hello there, this is VK3OTN, the official station of the Radio Amateur Oldtimers Club of Australia, with a monthly news broadcast for members and friends of the club for July 2024. This month, instead of the usual broadcast, we will offer an historical broadcast from years past. The usual news and information will be broadcast next month. I'm Andrew, the VK3 Charlie Alpha Hotel. I have broadcast files going back as far as 2001. Many of the older files aren't the greatest as far as technical quality goes, archived in either real audio or Windows Media audio format. These produced a smaller file size back in the days when the leading edge technology was dial-up internet. Remember that? This month we have an original broadcast from June 2002. Details on when to hear these news and information broadcasts are available at the club website www.raotc.org.au. The VK3OTN is available on a wide range of radio platforms, HF, VHF and UHF, 2-metre repeaters, amateur television, DMR, that is digital mobile radio, and D-Star. These news broadcasts are available for download for up to 6 months, just in case you miss the original news broadcast from the RAOTC website. If you'd like to contact the club, then why not send us an email, raotc@raotc.org.au. I hope you enjoy this month's broadcast.
Hello there, this is Alan Doble, VK3AMD and associated relay stations as VK3OTN, the official call sign of the Radio Amateur Oldtimers Club. The latest news from our secretary, Arthur Evans, VK3VQ, is not good. He reports that nearly 70 members have failed to renew their subscriptions, which were finally due by the end of April. And this is serious from 2 points of view. Subscriptions are our only source of income and the means to print and deliver a magazine. On the other hand, no subscriptions means deletion from the membership list in the magazine. I'm confident nobody has decided not to subscribe, only overlooked the date. If this is your situation, please gladden Arthur's heart and with your sub, which is still $8 per year or $15 for 2 years. Incorporation. As reported last month, we have lodged the necessary documents with the appropriate government department, but so far have not received any acknowledgement or comment. Excuse me. Amateur Radio Magazine. Those listeners who do not receive the WIA's AR magazine may be interested to know that it is beginning to be available at some newsagents in limited but increasing quantities. The June issue of the magazine bought from newsagents will contain a free catalogue from JCAR, a well-known supplier of components. Subscribers will find a coupon entitling a free catalogue when making a purchase at any JCAR outlet. The newsagent's price for the magazine is $5.95. An interesting item from the WIA Federal Convention is that the Ron Higginbotham Award for Outstanding Contributions to Amateur Radio Magazine has been awarded to club member Drew Diamond, VK3XU. Congratulations, Drew. In West Australia, the Oldtimers Group will be having their regular luncheon meeting at the Dayswater Tavern at 12 noon tomorrow week, Tuesday the 11th. And today we welcome to membership Eric Van der Weyer, VK2KUR, who becomes a full member, number 1253. and Vic Self, VK3KSF, who becomes an associate member with the number 1254. It would be great to hear, or preferably these new members, either or both of them, identify themselves as any other recently joined members on one or other of our callback sessions. This is VK3OTN. We regret to report the passing from us of Lawrence Quigley, VK2DSB, who was member number 1106. Carl Alexander, VK4FAE, who was member number 1051, and George Nielsen, VK3TES, who was member number 856. George was best known for the years he spent at Kingsley Radio and the design and construction of the Kingsley AR7. We now pause for a few moments in memory of these friends. Okay, this is VK3OTN. A short item from Doug Charlton, VK7DK, reads as follows. And by the way, Doug's QTH is in the call book. He says, I've been fascinated by recent references to the Lockheed Hudson aircraft. On the 5th of August 1943, a Hudson aircraft crash landed on our dairy farm at Leon Gatto in South Gippsland, Victoria. I still have a memento given to our family by the ground staff who attended the crash site, and it is inscribed with the date mentioned above and also Hudson N28. All of the crew survived the crash, and I distinctly recall the navigator's comment to the effect that this was his third crash. The aircraft was dismantled and hauled off the sail, I believe. Perhaps someone may have additional detail about this particular aircraft. Should anyone wish to explore this matter further, I'd be pleased to assist. It sure would be nice to meet up with someone familiar with the occasion. And that was Doug Charlton, 70K, and he's in the call book. This is VK3AMD and associated relay stations is VK3OTN. From time to time, the long arm of coincidence reaches out to touch us. It happened to me a couple of weeks ago. Using pen and paper, I was drafting a letter which I planned to type later and send to my opposite number in England, Dr. Ken Jones, G3RRN. To check the spelling of the name of the English club's secretary, I sorted through a buried heap of old magazines to find a copy of their OT News. I found the information I wanted on the inside front cover, and a headline on the opposite page identified the front cover picture as, quote, Dr. Ken Jones, G3RRN, and new president, the man I was writing to. That randomly chosen magazine turned out to be dated autumn 1998. Creepy, isn't it? This is VK3OTN. A major reason that populists use our VK3OTN call sign to exchange greetings to our brother club in England on April the 8th when they used their special call sign GB75GBH from Tetley, the site of the beam wireless transmitter to Australia in 1927, was that one of our early members, the late Maxwell Howden, who was then A3BQ, established the first ever two-way shortwave communication between Australia and England 3 years earlier, when he worked Ernest Simmons G2OD on November the 14th, 1924. Max was using 250 watts and 85 meters. I'll now read to you Max Howden's own story of that event in a very faded copy of a journal named Experimental Radio and Broadcast News. Some of the print's a bit hard to read, but the story includes 5 pictures, including one of Max with his hand on the key. And here are Max's own words. It never rains but it pours. That was my feeling when G2OD answered my CQ call 4 minutes past 5 in the morning of November the 14th, after a lapse of only 10 days since I established the first two-way trans-Pacific communication. I forgot the earliness of the hour and my sleepiness and just waited and waited for him to sign his call. His tuning was so sharp that as soon as I found him, I knew it was a very distant station, and I thought that he was English by his very pure note, the Frenchmen, like the Aussies, being noted for their rattles. After keeping me in suspense for nearly 4 minutes, he finally signed off, and I immediately changed over and, increasing my filament current to make sure of things, sent him congratulations and greetings from Australia. I asked him for his power input and circuit. The beginning of his reply was hardly to the point, and I thought at first he had not read my transmission. But after telling me my signals were already fading, he returned the greetings, etc., and said his power was 190 to 200 watts, and what were his signals like at the distance. Well, they'd been very clear, but were just beginning to fade. So instead of sending him a detailed report, I merely gave him QRK and see you again tomorrow at 8:15 GMT. 18:15 GMT. My signals had either faded or thought the hour was too late, but his reply was okay, 1800 GMT time, GM, for good night, I guess. I sat back, lit a cigarette, and studied my DX cards, wondering where his, the best DX I could ever get, would look best. It would depend on the size of the frame. After a while I came down to earth, or rather back to Australia, and remembered that I was very sleepy and there was at least 2.5 hours before I could report, so I went back to bed. Therefore, though one of the shortest periods I worked to OD was easily the most satisfactory DX work I have ever done. Mainly, I think, because the receiving conditions were so good at both ends. About midday, I received a cablegram from Mr. Simmons confirming the establishment of the first two-way communication between England and Australia that morning, so I had not dreamt it. To this I replied, and the only part of his transmission the following morning that was readable through the QRN was his acknowledgement of my answer. We did our best to work again on the Sunday morning, but although we found each other before 4:50 a.m., we could not do much working owing to the heavy QRN at this end. Static was bad that night again, but I succeeded in working U1SF for over an hour. The following morning I stayed in bed, thinking that conditions would be too bad. They must have cleared a bit, for both 3BM and 3BD heard G2SZ and G2NM working slightly higher than G2OD and noticeably stronger. I tried again the next Sunday, the 23rd at 1800 GMT, and after listening for about 5 minutes, called GCQ and G2OD. The latter was apparently waiting for me, for he came straight back. This was the earliest I'd heard him, it being then about 4:15 a.m. Static was again too bad, too much. So reliable reception, to have much reliable reception at this end. G2OD complained that for the first time since I started working with him. However, I sent him a message for old A3BK, who most will remember is now away in England for 2 years. Before he left, I told him he would probably hear from us while he was there, as the only link in the change of England at that time, unbridged, was between New Zealand and Honolulu. Little did I expect to be dumping messages solid in England before half his time was up. G2OD gave me okay to it and sent one to me in return. It read, "Congratulations on Aussie amateur work, signed Amory, Commercial Secretary." It took me 3 attempts before I got that, and I still don't know who it was. 2, although Z4AA relayed it on to another Australian station the following night. We were able to keep in touch with one another until 5:15 a.m. on Sunday, but although I tried for over an hour on Monday morning, I heard nothing of him. G2NM, however, was doing local work at about 20 words per minute from, I can't read the time, up to about 0:40 and was very easily readable. That is all the two-way communication that has taken place so far, but we're hoping for better conditions when the weather clears. A brief description of the instruments in use at this end may be of interest. The transmitter is a 3-core Meissner fed by a big hand-brewed transformer delivering about 1500 volts through an electrolytic filter consisting of a number of jars into a Philips Z4 tube which passes just on 100 milliamps at that potential. The aerial is made up of a 50-foot 5-wire cage suspended by hemp rope between two 80-foot masts. The 5-wire tapering cage lead-in comes from the exact center of the horizontal cage and is 80 feet long, being connected to the set by a 1-inch copper strip. The counterpoise is 6 100-foot wires on 15-foot spreaders. The wires are bunched in the center at the point where the lead is soldered, thus giving it the form of a double fan. There are no low-loss condensers in the set, but I've not yet managed to make them smoke. The receiver consists of a detector with one stage of audio. The coils are wound with 16-gauge DCC wire and cardboard tube with 5 turns primary, 14 turns secondary, and 11 turns tickler. The secondary is shunted by a 305 condenser with moulded mud ends. That ends Max Howden's own story of a history-making achievement, a giant step in wireless long-distance communication. The Max Howden receiver now held at Science Works Museum is very old, but is not the set that's described in this story. This is VK3AMD and VK3OTN. Here we have a story from Ron Cook, VK3ASW, who muses about crystal sets. I discovered the crystal set before I could read or write. It lived in a drawer in the wash house and seemed very heavy. I knew it was special, so I used to lift it in and out to struggle back to the back door with my arms wrapped around it. It was maybe 4 years old. I was maybe 4 years old. Mum would take it off me and put it away. How often this little game went on, I don't know. But one day, instead of setting this polished box on the tank stand, I let it slip, and a funny little glass cylinder that housed the cat's whisker was born. After that, my mother gave up, and I amused myself dismantling the whole assembly. I never did find the cat's whisker, but there was a little bit of stringy wire where the whisker should have been. The set took me some time to destroy completely. I recall a drawer half full of tangled silk-covered copper wire, and even today the odd aluminium plate from the tuning capacitor will turn up in the sand in the backyard. Apparently I acquired some skill with a screwdriver and pliers at this time. By the time I was 10, I bitterly regretted that Mum had not given me a thump and put the set higher up and out of my reach. I have now forgiven her, but from the time I had a different sort of interest in crystal sets until I was an adult, I resented the fact I'd been allowed to smash up a good crystal set. They still hold a fascination for me today. At about 10 years of age, I discovered a book, Crystal Sets and How to Make Them, that belonged to my father. He and his brother had built a set according to instructions, but heard nothing, possibly because the farm at Berries Creek was too far away from the nearest transmitting station. Dad kept the book for many years until I found it and read it from cover to cover one winter. In those days, I'd become a voracious reader and tried to read every book in the house. It took me some 3 years to save up enough money to buy a pair of headphones and a tuning capacitor, that was 10 shillings, plus some enamelled wire for a coil. Eventually, a working crystal set emerged, and I was able to listen to 3AR and 3LO. I could just hear but not understand VK, at least forget the VK. I could just hear but not understand 3UZ and could hear another commercial station, perhaps 3DB. Many hours were spent in listening to radio plays when I should have been sound asleep. Later I found other boys in nearby Geelong had crystal sets and they could only get 3G on, but it was loud. I tried to call with many less turns, and I too could hear the local station some 12 miles away. But I seemed to have let a genie out of the bottle, for after that I could not listen to any station without hearing 3GM in the background, if somewhat faintly, on 3LO and 3AR. I rebuilt my crystal set many times in search of perfect selectivity and great sensitivity, but always 3G on was there somewhere. I gave up building crystal sets when I was given a valve and some batteries by a kind-hearted serviceman and became a regeneration receiver fiend. Recently, one of the radio clubs held a crystal set competition. I started out to build a new set. Unfortunately, I became ill and didn't finish it till after the competition. As when I was first building these things, I experimented with different detectors. I finished up with a hot carrier diode. Maybe that's cheating, but no more so than using an OA5 and a computer speaker with a built-in audio amplifier. I found it could hear all Melbourne stations at good strength with little or no interference and just a single coil and a small aerial. Yes, it's my best crystal set yet, but using the audio amplifier does make me feel a bit uneasy, as I feel that having any battery or mains power defeats the idea of a self-powered radio. I might make a second set tuned to a local station and use the power from that to run a small amplifier. That would enable the main set to run lightly coupled for better selectivity and still provide maybe a milliwatt of audio. Yes, the possibilities of the old crystal set still intrigue me. In the meantime, I can listen to the set in the garage when working on other things. I once had an involvement with an X-band microwave crystal set. The Jindervik pilotless aircraft designed and manufactured at the government aircraft factory at Fisherman's Bend was at one stage fitted with a radar transponder. This used a simple crystal with an IN23 diode followed by a 1 MHz amplifier. The received radar pulses were 1 microsecond duration, so a 1 MHz audio amplifier could be used to raise the level of the pulse sufficiently to fire a magnetron oscillator that emitted a very loud return pulse. The receiver system had a usable sensitivity of about -60 dBm. The amplified pulse made the Jindervik look like a very large bomber on the X-band radar. The delay from receiving the pulse to generating a local magnetron pulse ensured that the aircraft was not where the radar indicated, which was a possible advantage when live firing at the target commenced. The antennae used on the aircraft were quarter wave verticals. At 10 gigahertz, a wavelength is 30 millimeters, so the verticals were all of 7 millimeters long. I wonder how my latest crystal set would go with a full-size quarter-wave vertical on 400 meters coupled to it. Interesting story from Ron, BK3AFW. BK3ATN. And here we go again, a book review. During a visit to a local library recently, I picked up an interesting wartime story, nothing to do with radio or signals. It's the personal story of an Australian infantryman who landed in Singapore near the end of January 42. Surrender occurred 8 days later after a lot of confusion plus lack of supplies or direction. He was imprisoned in Changi, but was determined to escape, which he did with one other friend. They stole a small boat to get to the mainland and worked their way up the east coast, hoping to cross to the west coast and somehow escape to perhaps Burma. It was not to be. They were betrayed to the Japanese by a group of Malays and Indians and eventually finished up back in Changi. It's a well-told story of courage and suffering. The details of the mindless savagery and brutality of the Japanese are horrifying. The title of the book is Singapore Samurai. The author is Penrod B. Dean, P-E-A-N, published in 1998 by Kangaroo Press in Sydney. The ISBN number is 0-86417-9324. I'll repeat that. 0-86417-9324. Penrod Dean is West Australian. He learned Japanese and was one of 10 Australian servicemen to be taken to Japan and give evidence in the war trials there. The book's about penguin size, 160 pages with a good index. So VK3OTN. Colin Harvey, VK1AU, has sent the following notes about his friend John Gerber, VK1EG, whose passing we reported in last month's broadcast. It's headed in the olden days. Looking back from today's technology, it's hard to realise that in 1936 our national railway service once depended on Morse code for control of railway freight trains. 19 years old John Gerber was a supply messenger at Spencer Street Station when he qualified as a second-class and then a third-class railway telegraphy operator. These certificates of competency authorised him to be employed as a junior telegraphist at Flinders Street Station, sending details of the desired makeup of freight trains to Station Master Sue at Victoria. In January 1937, he joined the RAAF as a trainee WT operator, completing number 6 course in June 1938. RAAF WT duties such as point-to-point circuits, aircraft watches and MFDF stations, and flying duties kept him busy. But in 1940 he was ready to sit for and pass the PMG's Department First Class Commercial Operator Certificate of Proficiency, receiving certificate number 382. This required him to demonstrate, among other skills, correct reception of code groups at 20 words per minute and plain language at 25 words per minute. It's not generally known that a first-class certificate could be cancelled or suspended at the discretion of the Postmaster General for incompetence, misconduct, or breach of the regulations. His original certificate went astray during the war years and was replaced in 1947 by number 1174. It was this certificate that entitled him to an amateur license in 1970. We have some copies of his certificates, but I think they might be a bit pale for reproduction in ATN. And here's a short item from John Saunders, BK2DEJ. He talks about crystal sets again, strangely. In the late 1940s, I had a go at making a crystal set and it was a disaster. Looking back, I can see why. I lived in a flat at Bondi Beach. The antenna was all of 20 feet long. As we lived on the second story, there was no earth lead, so it was going to be valves to the rescue. At the time, I was an avid reader of radio and hobbies at 6 a time, so a set was built using a 6J7G regenerative with a 6FG6 output and a 5Y3G for the high tension. This was not enough, and I had to build a short-wave receiver, which became the first of many. At the same time, I used to ride my bicycle all over the place. I discovered an on-antenna above a house in Bronte. It turned out to be a W8JK belonging to VK2FJ, Jack Ferguson, a member of the local fire brigade, generally known as Fireman Jack. His house was an Aladdin's cave to me. You had to walk sideways through the hallway through the house. There were crates and boxes all full of wartime disposal sale. You name it, it was there somewhere. And as a grand finale, in his shack was a rack-mounted transmitter that took up the whole rack. Wonder of wonders, the rectifier was a set of 4 866s and a bridge rectifier. Never before had I seen such a sight. Jack was very kind to me and helped me over those first years. Eventually it all came to an end. Jack lusted for a rotary beam to replace the old W8JK antenna. And being a fireman, he was able to finagle one of those hose-drying towers that all fire stations used to have. Up it went, the howls of horror from all the neighbours who didn't know a good thing when they saw it. Then the local council descended on poor old Jack. In the end, Jack decided that if he couldn't build his tower in Bronte, he'd sell up and go to some civilised place where he could. We also moved away from Bondi Beach and I lost contact with him. But I've never forgotten Fireman Jack, who gave me such a good start. That was a nice story from John Saunders, VK2DEJ. This is VK3OTN. In this modern age of hair-trigger litigation and problems with third-party liability insurance, the greatest worry for most golf clubs is what massive sum it might be sued for due to a stray ball going over the boundary fence. There was a case where a young married couple were playing golf, and this ball did go over the fence and break a window in an adjoining property, making a loud crash and scattering glass everywhere. They hurried to speak to the man who came out of the house and apologised profusely and offered to pay for the repairs. To their surprise, the man said there was no need for that. In fact, he was in their debt. He explained that in fact he was a genie. He said, I'm a genie and I've been cooped up in a bottle for 1,000 years, and your golf ball broke the bottle and released me. So I'd like to repay you by granting your dearest wishes. After a little thought, the husband said, we would like to become scratch golfers. The genie clapped his hands and said, done. What else do you wish? The wife said, we'd like to become millionaires. The genie clapped his hands again and said, done. $100,000 will be paid into your bank account every month for the rest of your lives. They both thanked him and asked was there anything they could do for him to show their gratitude. The genie appeared to think for a minute or two, and then rather hesitantly said, in all those years in the bottle, what I longed for most was to spend a night in the arms of a beautiful woman. I don't suppose that they got his meaning. And after a brief conference, it was decided that the wife would go along with his wishes, as after all he had done so much for them. We don't have details of what happened during the night, I'm sorry to say, but in the morning the wife was leaving for home and the genie asked how old she was. She replied, 29. The genie said, 29, eh? I'm so glad to find you still did believe in genies. And on that happy note, I'll leave you until July the 1st. And just while I'm at it, for the information of listeners to this transmission, membership of this club is available in 2 grades: associate membership for amateurs who have been licensed for 10 years or more, and full membership for amateurs who have been licensed for 25 years or more. Annual subscription is $8 per year for either grade. Both grades receive 2 copies a year of our magazine, OCN. This is Alan Doble, VK3AMD, and associated relay stations is VK3ATN, the official call sign of the Radio Amateur Old-Timers Club of Australia. We now conclude our translation for this month and hope you found it interesting. We'll be on the air again on Monday the 1st of July and Monday the 5th of August at the same time as today. Times and frequencies are published in the facing page that came with your magazine. Please stand by for the call-back session on the frequency you've been listening to. Thank you for listening. On 73. Da-da-da-da-da.
You have been listening to VK3OTN. VK3OTN is the official station of the Radio Amateurs Old-Timers Club, Australia. This concludes this month's News and Information Bulletin. The next RAOTC News and Information broadcast will take place on the first Monday of next month, on the same frequencies, and at the same times as today, with the exception of January. Thanks for being with us, and we hope you will join in the callbacks, where callbacks are taken. 73 everyone.